Welcome to Around the Weird. Here's your host, the museum curator of the strange and unusual, Mr. Nothing.
Thank you, mysterious voice. And welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I talk about all the unusual and out of the ordinary literature that I have found in my travels. Today it is Short Story Tuesday. It's been a while since I did Short Story Tuesday, what with the move and everything like that. But I'm ready to get back at it because I love reading short stories and I love talking about short stories. I feel that short form literature especially has a lot to offer in the field of literature and whatnot, because you can tell different kinds of stories rather than longer form novels and all that. So today I wanted to focus on a short story about death, last words, and friendship. I am referring to The Last Words of Benito Picone by Anthony Marra. For those who don't know, Anthony Marra is a fairly recent author. He's only started getting published in the past 10 years, and he's primarily writing short stories, although he has written one or two books. Although one of those books might actually just be a collection of short stories, so again, more known for short stories than he is full-length books. Still, he's won a couple of awards for his short stories, and he seems to be doing great things in the field of literature. I particularly like this short story, so I hope I find more of his work in the future. But without further ado, let's get on to the story at hand. I'll do a little summary, a little analysis, and we will move on from there. So The Last Words of Benito Picone focus on Benito Picone. He is a bit of a sad sack, 39-year-old man not doing too well in life. He's lost his job recently, and he doesn't seem to have a lot of friends in life. He's also an Italian immigrant, and I believe that his mother has died. So he again, loneliness seems to be creeping in. One evening, he is wandering about, trying to avoid hail from the hailstorm, when he wanders into the street and he is hit by a car. He ends up waking up in the hospital, and he believes that he's near death, and so he wants to get out his last words. He's been very hope-focused, some might say obsessive, about his last words in recent times, and he believes that he has to impart some of his wisdom, otherwise people won't really know who he was or something like that. He believes the last words of his life are super important to him. And he ends up talking about how you need an umbrella in the rain in his hospital bed, when the woman next to him in another bed is like, that's some Spanish I've never heard before. And he points out that he's actually Italian, not Spanish, which seems to upset him, because it seems to be a common mistake that Americans have been making for him. The nurse comes into the room, and he starts talking about his last words again because he's near death, and the nurse seems very uninterested in what he has to say. She points out that he only has like a broken arm or a leg, and he'll heal pretty quickly, but he's certain that he's going to die. This certainty kind of diminishes over the next couple of days as he realizes that he's not actually dying. He's just got a few broken bones. He starts having conversations with Marie. He finds out that she was an orphan and then later a widower. She has a drinking issue going on, and so she struggled with sobriety for parts of her life. And she, at this point in time, the doctors admitted her because they were worried about her heart. And so they strike a quick friendship, a very fast friendship. Eventually the nurse comes and tells them that they'll be leaving soon because they don't have health insurance. Typical American problems, you know. They decide to leave the hospital. Marie gets dressed really quickly and takes Benito, who's still in his cast, out of the hospital, and they leave. And Marie leaves Benito with a cab driver named Joseph while she goes off and does some of her other business. Benito suspects that she might be going to the local bar to get more alcohol, which kind of disappoints him. But he has a conversation with Joseph where they bond over the fact that they both share names with dictators. Benito, in his case, Benito Mussolini, and Joseph, in his case, Joseph Stalin. Joseph also reveals that he is a defector from the Soviet Union. And the only reason he was a defector is because he was a bus driver in a small Soviet local back in the Soviet Union, and he was scheduled to drive a bus with some Soviet ministers on it, and this made him really nervous, and he couldn't focus, and he actually fell asleep and accidentally drove into Finland and created a bit of an international incident. And rather than admit that he fell asleep and all that, he just defected over to the United States, which I think is a bit funny. And Joseph and Benito bond over this and develop a little bit of a friendship. And when Marie comes back, they also become friends too. And so they're three great people being friends. And the story fast forwards over the next 30 or so years, with all of them struggling and trying to be better people, and also talks a bit about their friendship, specifically Benito getting a job and then losing his job over the years, Joseph developing cancer, getting healed, or not really healed, but it going into remission and then coming back later, and Joseph dies. And Marie also struggles with sobriety before eventually managing to hit at least 1 month of sobriety along the way. And so they're all struggling, but through the friendship, they're all able to become somewhat better, or to have a support system that enables them to, not sink into the depths of loneliness. The story then goes to the mid-2000s, where Benito and Marie are at the pier. Benito feels a sort of tightness in his body, and he falls over, and he finds that he can't breathe and that he's actually dying. He tries to say some last words again, but he finds that because he can't breathe, he can't say anything. And so Marie is giving him mouth-to-mouth CPR. And he finds it ironic that his last words are being spoken by someone else, because she's giving him breath. And so he's unable to do that, but he does realize that he's been loved because of these people in his life, and so he's less worried about dying, and thus he does die surrounded by people watching him. And that's where the story ends there, on a bit of a sad but also kind of happy note, because he was loved. In terms of analysis, there is a bit to talk about with this story. One of the things that Marra touches upon is the significance of last words, which seem to be a big thing. Everyone likes to focus on the last words that someone said, as it seems like wisdom rather than what it actually is, which is random neurons firing. And sometimes last words aren't really maybe the most important thing a person said in their life. But Benito believes that the last words are his chance to impart wisdom and share his experience in life. Although he's only 39 years old at the start of the story, so that's fairly young, and so maybe he doesn't have as much experience as he thinks he does. And so he believes that He does believe that he wants to share some of that wisdom, and that when he enters the hospital, this is his chance. He knows he's dying. Now he has a chance to say something impactful. There's a good quote that I would like to read to you here. Benito had many things, in fact, to say about love and sorrow and pride and betrayal and forgiveness and beauty. The problem was that no one was the least bit interested in hearing them, which made his last words a final chance to convert his failures into wisdom-building exercises. A last gasp to save himself from who he was. Who wouldn't want to listen to the final dispatch from a man walking over the edge? Whose ears wouldn't perk to hear one's soul answer to the question mark that punctuates every life? Those who had never paid him a moment's thought would lean in to hear what he had to say as he crossed over. Knowing that a good ending can redeem a bad story. Benito had struggled to cram the self-knowledge of his 39 years into a pithy single sentence, serving a wisdom that proved once and for all to all the detractors that Benito Picone did not live in vain. And I feel like that's a very, fascinating insight into Benito's character, that he hasn't lived the best life that he's wanted to up to this point. He feels that he's kind of lonely, and that people have maybe sold him a bit short, and that if he were to say his last words, anybody would want to listen to that. So it seems like his problem, more so than wanting to share his wisdom, his problem is that of loneliness, that no one is paying attention to him, that he doesn't have anyone to connect to. That's kind of punctuated by the fact that when he does say his last words, the hospital nurse who is tending to him is uninterested. Maybe it's because she believes that, or she knows that he's not really dying, but also maybe she knows that he's fairly young, and like, what experience does he possibly have to share? It's clear that this person in particular doesn't really care about his final words, if these are his final words. The story kind of flashes forward as it nears the end, to the end of Benito's life, where he is hanging out with Marie at the pier, and he begins to collapse of what seems like a heart attack or something like that. And as he realizes that he's dying, he does try to say those final words again. But he's unable to, because he's out of breath. Possibly a very sad irony right there, that when you want to say your final words, it's something you focused on your whole life, but in your final moments, you can't say anything because you have no breath. And as he says in the story, he's saying these words through someone else, because she's giving him the breath. But one thing that he realizes at the end of his life is that maybe these final words, they're not so important. What actually matters is love. The love that he felt from Joseph and from Marie, he's able to channel into, the wisdom of his life. So, if he were to say that out loud, that'd probably be impactful. But, he knows it personally. So, I think that matters the most to him. He's not able to say his final words, but he does realize that the friendship and kindness that he experienced in life is deeply important. And related to that idea is the value of friendship that Marra touches upon. Benito starts the story in a state of loneliness. He's described as a bit of a sad sack, not really having people in his life. And again, as I mentioned before, the desire to share his last words with someone seems like a big deal in terms of connecting with someone. Rather than sharing his wisdom, it's more sharing the experience of his life with another human being, which he doesn't have. But when he ends up in the hospital, he ends up meeting Marie, who he connects with on some level, and through the years they develop a strong friendship. And then outside of the hospital, he connects with Joseph over their dictator-like names. There's another good quote that I would like to read to you. "We're both named after dead dictators," Benito said, a trace of wonder to his voice. "It's important to find your people," Marie said, and began distributing napkins. And I feel like that's the central theme of this story. It's important to find your people, because if you find your people, if you find that support system, then the key of loneliness, the issue of loneliness, that's gone. That problem is no longer a problem for you. And perhaps that's the most important. Maybe Anthony Marra is saying that what matters most in life, more so than sharing your wisdom, is having friends. If you have that, then everything else is golden. And not only that, but the friendship gives you support through the bad times, because Marie was supported by her friends with her alcoholism. They let her know that she wasn't a bad person because she couldn't stay on the straight and narrow. They supported her and acknowledged that she was worthy of love, regardless of whether she managed to hold true with her sobriety. And then they supported Joseph with his cancer diagnosis, and they supported Benito as he struggled to find a job. And so that friendship is important, and if it lasts through the bad times, you can get through anything. And so I think that's really what the key of the story is here. Anyway, those are my thoughts on The Last Words of Benito Picone, a pretty good short story by Anthony Marra. I will say that my one issue with the story is that it kind of flashes really fast through the friendship between Benito, Joseph, and Marie, and you could have developed that part of the short story more, or you could have even turned it into an entire novel about their life. And it feels like there's some missed potential with Anthony Marra there, but it's still a good short story otherwise. I definitely recommend it, and I will put a link to it in the description so that you can find it and enjoy it on your own. If you read the story before, or you simply want to comment on something I said in my review, please do so below. I would love to hear from you and have a discussion about this interesting short story. Otherwise, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that other people can find out about Anthony Marra. And until then, I wish you the best of luck in your weird and friendshipy travels. Farewell.